Welcome to System of Strength. We all know how loud a narcissist can be, but what happens when you turn down the volume? Their greatest fear isn't your anger, your tears, or your arguments. It is the chilling, absolute power of your silence. When you go silent, the narcissist loses their primary weapon and is forced to confront their worst nightmare, themselves. Today, we break down the 5 psychological reasons why your strategic silence triggers intense narcissistic collapse. Remember, we are discussing power dynamics. Silence is not weakness, it is the ultimate boundary. Reason number 1, silence cuts off the narcissistic supply. The supply is attention, validation, admiration, or even negative emotion like outrage. They need it to survive. Your silence is starvation. It is denying them the vital energy they crave to regulate their fragile ego. When the supply line vanishes, panic sets in. They will escalate the noise, hoping to provoke a reaction. But your silence holds the line. It tells them, you no longer have access to my emotional energy. They realize their attempts to engage are merely echoing back at them, empty and useless. This starvation leads directly to narcissistic injury and, eventually, the painful crash. Reason number 2, silence destroys their illusion of control. Narcissists are obsessed with control. They feel safe only when they are driving the conversation, the narrative, and your feelings. Talking gives them information. Silence, however, is a black hole. They cannot gauge your next move. Uncertainty is terrifying to them. They need to know if you are preparing to leave, planning revenge, or simply detaching. In the absence of data, they fill the void with their own paranoia and negative projections. They self-sabotage. Your silence makes you unreadable. You become an enigma they cannot solve, and therefore cannot dominate. The script they wrote for you is now irrelevant. They must improvise, and narcissists hate going off script. Reason number 3, silence forces painful, involuntary introspection. The core defense mechanism of the narcissist is to externalize all blame and avoid their own fractured inner reality. The external noise they create, the arguments, the demands, the drama, keeps their inner critic muted. When you impose silence, that inner critic screams louder than ever. They are forced to hear the voice of shame they desperately try to escape. There is no distraction, no scapegoat, just the uncomfortable truth of who they are when no one is watching. Their carefully constructed false self begins to crack under the pressure of authentic self-reflection. This introspection is psychological agony for them, and they will fight tooth and nail to break your silence. Reason number 4, silence equals accountability. Narcissists believe they operate outside the rules. They twist every word you say to negate responsibility. Silence, however, cannot be debated. It is a definitive boundary that says, your behavior is unacceptable, and the conversation is over. There is no loophole in silence. They cannot gaslight a blank stare or manipulate a lack of response. They interpret your silence as cold, final judgment, the rejection they feared all along. Your silence forces them to face the factual consequence of their actions, not the invented drama they prefer. This realization that they are finally being held accountable is the moment their denial system breaks down. Reason number 5, silence signifies anticipation of the unknown future. When you are arguing, they know your focus is on the present. When you are silent, they assume you are strategizing. The hidden threat is the fear that your silence is simply the loading screen before you execute your grand escape plan. They fear you are gathering evidence, talking to lawyers, or exposing them to their social circle. This dynamic shifts all power back to you. They become the anxious ones, waiting for your next move. The longer you maintain strategic silence, the more inflated their fears become about the inevitable consequence. They dread the moment the silence breaks because they know it will be the sound of their definitive loss. Your silence is not empty. It is filled with self-respect, strategy, and unshakable boundaries. Use silence wisely. It is a powerful tool for de-escalation and disengagement, especially the gray rock method. Remember, the goal is always to protect your peace and your sanity, not to win a meaningless debate. Your voice has power, but your deliberate absence of one has infinite, intimidating strength. If this video gave you strength, hit the subscribe button and share this message. Let your silence speak volumes.